Hi, it's Mark from Top Local Lead Generation. We're here with Mr. Bernie Pawlik of Pawlik Automotive for our weekly customer repair of the week. And today we're talking about a 2006 Cadillac SRX. How are you doing today, Bernie?
I'm doing really well. Yes, we have a 2006 Cadillac SRX to talk about today.
What was happening with this vehicle?
Well, what was happening is when our client brought the vehicle to us, and I'll just get a picture of the vehicle here so you can see the beautiful Cadillac, if you can call it that. Client brought the vehicle to us, and it wouldn't start some of the time. So sort of listening to his conversation over the phone, I figured, oh, it probably had a bad starter or battery. That's kind of the typical thing that we find with those kind of issues where the car won't start. But what we found was actually interesting and quite different. When we went into the vehicle, we turned the key. Something just didn't seem right in the way when it was turning. So yeah, so that's what we found. So that's why we're talking about this today. It's not just a simple starter or battery issue.
So was that you said something wasn't right? Was that intuitive or educated guess of what might lead you to troubleshoot the problem?
Kind of a bit of both. You know, I've been fixing cars for a long time, and Nigel, our lead technician, he's been fixing cars for almost as many years as I have. And when you work on cars for a long time, you get kind of an intuitive sense of what it is. Just sometimes just driving around the block, you can kind of get a feel of, you know, this problem is probably an ignition issue, or it's you know, a fuel type problem, just by feel and experience. And so getting into the car, you know, Nigel looked at it, he goes, there just was something about it that didn't operate like a bad battery or starter. So we did do some basic tests and found, of course, that the battery was fine. But what was interesting about this car is that not only would it not start sometimes when you turn the key to start, but also when you went to take the key out of the ignition and the vehicle's in park and everything's set, it wouldn't come out of the ignition. There was something that just electronically wouldn't release the key. So that's what we found.
So that sounds like a very complicated repair.
Well, you know what, it turns out, I mean, our next step in the repair is to hook up a diagnostic scan tool and just see what sort of, you know, see what's going on in the electronic system of the vehicle. And it's a 2006 Cadillac, so I guess you could say it's not really a modern vehicle, but I still consider it to be so. I mean, the technology is pretty similar to what you see in cars nowadays. Other than newer cars just have more advanced, you know, communication devices and entertainment systems, but I mean the basic vehicle operation is pretty much the same. There are a number of computers that talk to each other in the car. There's body control computer, engine control computer, transmission computer, and all sorts of a number of others. So the first thing we do, we hook our diagnostic scan tool. We did a system scan of the vehicle. So basically what happens is it scans through all the modules and pulls out any trouble codes that are found. And here we found a couple of interesting codes, one in the engine module and the other was in the body control module for data link communication. And from there we have a really good database of potential repairs, you know, potential causes with codes, either just based on real world experience of what other shops and technicians have found. And 95% of the time with these codes, the engine control module is at fault, or the ECU. So we figured that's a good way to go, because to actually test the individual component, you can spend hours and days just trying to test individual wires and pieces. And by the time you spend all that money, it's just cheaper to, at this point, based on the odds of it, based on the amount of times that's the cause, that's the thing to replace. So we replaced the ECU, and so the part itself is actually not all that difficult to replace. I'm just going to go back to some pictures here, and just move down our list here. There's our Cadillac. Here's our ECU. Can we see it here, Mark? Yes, we are looking at the engine. Yeah, so this is the engine compartment. It's a 3.6 liter engine, V6, and the big red arrow points to the ECU, which is located right on the front of the engine, buried under a few covers. So really not hard to get at, not hard to replace. But what is interesting is that you have to reprogram the computer, and that is what we do at this particular unit here. This is basically a laptop computer, and the device on the left is a Blue Streak iFlash. And what this does, between these two items, we hook this up to the vehicle computer, and then we download software from the internet from GM directly with the latest software updates, and we have to load that software into the vehicle computer. When you change the computer, it doesn't come with any software in it. So you plug the computer in and the car just cranks over and it won't start. So the software has to be loaded in. Software reprogramming is a pretty common procedure on a lot of newer cars. As cars age or get a little more experience on the road, the vehicle manufacturers realize, hey, we should have done a couple things different, or this car's not behaving like we thought. So you can actually reprogram the computer. So yeah, so that's kind of the procedure. So we uploaded, download, whichever is the right word, never sure. Put the proper software into the vehicle and started up and ran great. The key worked like it should, started every time, worked properly every time. Interesting thing on this vehicle computer, as I found was amazing, is how small this computer is. I mean, this doesn't really give you a size of the scale just looking at this picture, but if you look at this picture with the pen, with a standard Bic pen beside it, it's a really small unit. I mean, typically engine computers used to be like an 8 by 8 inch box, about an inch thick. Some of them were even bigger, some a bit smaller, but now they've come down to, I mean, this thing's really the size of like an iPhone 6 Plus with a couple of big electrical plugs on it. So it's pretty amazing how how things have changed with these. Microelectronics has really made its way into the automobile, just like everyone else.
Sorry. So you told me earlier that you learned something interesting while you were working on this vehicle.
Yeah, so I was doing a little bit of research on this vehicle because there was another part we needed and I was having a hard time finding it, and I was just wondering whether this model was similar to a Cadillac CTS. In doing some research, I found something interesting that probably if you own one of these vehicles might not thrill you too much, but as far as safety crashes, and I'm just looking at my cheat sheet of notes here if I'm looking away from the camera, but the 2005 to 2008 Cadillac SRX scored worst in class for driver fatalities, with a death rate of 63 compared to the averages of 23, which is pretty scary. I mean, that's a pretty, that's not like 32 over 23. That's like 60. That's like three times as much. So anyways, I wouldn't be so thrilled to own one of these cars just based on that information. I'm assuming after 2009, they got their act together and fixed it, because I didn't see any further information about that. So it's amazing what you can find out when you do a little research. So that's all we have to say today. I mean, the good news is with the computer in, the vehicle worked fine, and it really wasn't too difficult of a repair. A little hard on the wallet sometimes.
Great. I know I have some experience with computer changeovers.
Yeah.
So that's great, Bernie. So we've been talking about this 2006 Cadillac SRX. For some reason that's tripping me up this morning. With Mr. Bernie Pawlik of Pawlik Automotive. They're an award-winning shop, 15 times voted best in Vancouver by their customers. Best auto repair in Vancouver. So if you need some service, they're the guys to call. You can go to their website, pawlikautomotive.com, or give them a call, 604-327-7112. Thanks, Bernie.
Thanks, Mark. Talk to you soon. Bye.